Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Bought a Mic, a pop culture podcast for part 2 of our best TV shows of 2022. If you haven't listened to part 1, we covered numbers 10 through 6 on our top 10s, and today we have numbers 5 through 1. So go ahead and go back and listen to part 1 for the first half of our list, and now we're about to dive into numbers 5 through 1. My name's Ernest, and I am joined by Hunter and Drew as usual. So enjoy as we talk about our favorite shows of the year. Here we go. Number 5.
This is like Bandersnatch, but just for Ernie. And it's after the fact.
My number 5, I think we're going to have to wait on this again. It's The Bear.
Oh, we're going to have to wait on the fucking Bear. We are going to have to wait on it.
Oh, we're going to have to wait on The Bear, huh?
Okay. My number 5 is Barry.
Save it. Just for a bit.
I didn't finish the season, so I was not able to rank it, unfortunately.
Just
I will leave the
We'll talk
room.
about Barry shortly.
I'm sure that there is some incalculable spoiler that I'm not going to want to hear, so I'll leave the room for a minute if you guys want to end up talking about it. But for now,
it was all a dream. That was fucking nuts, man.
Number 5, Drew.
let's talk about the after party.
Nice.
Hey!
Hell yeah.
5 is so worthy for this show. I think we both had it.
Number 9.
We both had it at 9, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't pop up on hardly anyone's.
Dude, I noticed that.
I think it came out too early in the
year. Yeah, it was like
year.
February or something.
And it's on Apple TV Plus.
Right.
Yeah.
There's only so much capacity,
Yeah.
and there's already one show that's popping up on the list.
Yeah.
It premiered in January of 2020.
Christ.
Too, so that's why it feels
Everyone's
like a
just
lifetime ago.
glued to For All Mankind. They can't get away.
I'll let you pop off on that.
I'm so
sure
sick of
that's
this
coming up here.
Fucking.
You can talk about your silly little space gun show.
They actually didn't make my list.
Zoomers are flocking to For All Mankind.
Dane is going to be heartbroken when he
I
hears
did a
the
whole
news.
episode with him, and he would agree with me for season 3 not being on my list. It's okay. Anyway, the after party.
The after party rules. I've been in the bag for Lord and Miller for a long time. Last year I watched Claudia with a Chance of Meatballs for the first time. Guess what? It's great because they're great. They're awesome.
Good movie.
Yeah, they're an unstoppable force. This in particular is from the mind of Chris Miller, who's more of the logistical brains beyond the operation.
He is the director of every single episode.
And it shows that he's like the puzzle solver of the two, because the entire show's a puzzle. It all revolves around immensely complicated plot being told from like 20 different angles, while at the same time being genre parody. That's really hard. It's really difficult, but it doesn't feel like a sweaty show. Great cast.
Phenomenal
Incredible
cast that leveled up a lot of
Benny
people in my eyes.
Schwartz.
I don't think I wasn't on the
Barinholtz.
episode whenever you guys did an episode about the after party.
We chatted about it. We talked about it in hacks.
Yeah. I think that I was absent for that.
You
episode.
had not seen the show at that point.
And what happened was I got a horrible flu, and I watched it all. I binged through the entire thing in one sitting. I just kind of sat through it, and then I was like, I couldn't stop watching through it. And I think that I don't know. For me, it was one of those rare shows where it really, really benefited from a binge model, and not in the way that it's like, oh, it's a cliffhanger, one episode to the next, but just in the way of I just kept wanting to spend more time with these people. I will say, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest mystery box show fan, or mystery box fan, I should say,
or even the murder mystery genre that has kind of cropped up lately.
So I like some. We'll talk at least a little bit about Glass Onion next week whenever we do our best movies, if nothing else for honorable mentions. But I do find a lot of times with murder mysteries, generally the whodunit is one of the least interesting aspects of those shows. I mean, we're going to talk about White Lotus shortly, and that's kind of the whole conceit with White Lotus is oh my God, there's this thing that's happening. But especially in White Lotus, I'm I don't really care about all of that. I just want to spend time with the characters. And that's one thing that the After Party nails, is that each of these episodes, you spend time with each of these individual characters. And the genius of what Chris Miller is doing is that he's sowing the seeds of putting these stories together to put these puzzle pieces together without it ever feeling like a puzzle. It never feels like a project whenever you're watching this, where I feel like a lot of these kind of Agatha Christie styled shows are all about the mystery. They're all about the fan theorizing, trying to solve everything. And this doesn't ever feel like homework. It's just fun because it's really funny and it's incredible actors doing incredible work.
It's also one of the most unique shows ever.
Yeah. Every episode's a different genre.
Yeah.
That is new. That is a new thing. It's, like shows have done that, but not by design. Like Community got into that. Always Sunny even got into that in the late seasons where they just start fucking around.
I think this owes a lot to that.
Definitely, but this is taking that and cooking it into the DNA of the show, into the cell of the show. Like it's part of
everything.
Yeah, it's a part of the first line. It's like, this is a murderous mystery told from the perspective of each character at this party, and depending on who the character is, not only is a genre parody, but the genre befits the character.
And the entire presentation is informed. Like the Fast and Furious episode, the action movie episode, it looks like an action
they're all
movie.
direct. The direction is wildly different. There's a fucking animated episode.
Oh,
there's a musical episode.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Musical episode's the best.
And so you pull a lot of jokes from that, obviously. I mean, Lord and Miller have done that a zillion times, made genre jokes.
Drew, you only get one shot twice. You only get one shot twice.
This party is awesome. It rocks. I love Dave Franco, and I don't care who knows.
Mm-hmm.
I think he rules. I think he's in on the joke of Dave Franco. I don't know. It's just I get why this show wasn't widely watched. This isn't the easiest sell on most people. It is a COVID show, and sometimes it feels like it is a COVID show.
And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's totally fine. But I don't know. I think we need to support shows like this so that more shows like this get made.
Exactly. Yeah. There is a season 2 happening, which I'm glad.
I think that one of the best things, because I mean, Miller, of course, has some experience doing kind of bending genres and fitting a bunch of stuff together. And I knew a little bit of that going into the show, but I think more than anything, this kind of leveled up some actors in my mind for what their potential was. Chief among them was Tiffany Haddish. To be perfectly honest, I just am not the most familiar with all of Tiffany Haddish's work. I've seen Girls Trip and, a couple Tiffany Haddish projects here and there, but this kind of showed a new range to what she's capable of doing that I just really loved. Of course, you are having the comedy Bang Bang all-stars in there of Ben Schwartz and Alana Glazer and Ike Barinholtz and all these guys that have that comedic juice. Sam Richardson, of course, our guy.
Secret MVP, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a guy who I knew that he had the comedic chops, but he does just as an actor, he's just a great fucking actor in this show.
It's interesting because he is, even though like you're saying, this is getting a second season and it's going to be Tiffany Haddish as the detective, as the Benoit Blanc going to a new mystery. But Sam Richardson is the protagonist of this season.
Mm-hmm.
He's the main character. He is our episode 1. And we also, even in other people's episodes, we get a lot of interstitials of him on little side quests trying to solve the murder and clear his name, which add a lot to the show. Because it's the amount of laser focus that this show has. I think that's the secret, because that's how the show would fall apart. Is they're trying to do so much with genre and mystery and letting actors cook creatively that they lose the thread and the mystery just becomes a whatever. But this show is it's dialed into the mystery. Everything that happens is about the mystery. You are either operating through user, each person's account as told to Tiffany Haddish, like narrated by them of what happened while she's grilling them, or you're following a guy who is independently trying to solve the murder. So the entire time your gears are turning on who did it. And yet, like any really good mystery, they settle upon, I think, the perfect person.
It's so good. We
it's
talked
something
about
that
this
all the pieces come together and you're like, oh, of course.
It's so satisfying because as you get to the end, like you've narrowed it down in your head, you're playing detective along.
And they've done they do like any good mystery should, or even just like down to any like good Law and Order episode. They have showed you several people who very easily could be it.
Yeah. And you have like your one that is the most obvious. You have the one that you think would be the most surprising, and then they still manage to surprise you. For what this show is, it's perfect. And it's really, it bums me out that it hasn't gotten like any recognition at year end. You know, come on the pod, Chris Miller. We got you.
When does season 2 have a release date?
I don't think it's even started shooting yet.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm excited for season 2. We got Zach Woods in there. We got Paul Walter Hauser, Blackbird's own.
Oh my God.
Paul Walter Hauser is
Golden Globe
here.
winner.
Ken Jeong, John Cho. I'm excited.
That rocks so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this show.
Anna Konkle.
It's
Yo,
if you're into kind of conceptual comedy, if you like shows like Community, this feels like, you know, a kind of sidestep evolution of something like Community. I think it is a lot more, you know, conceptual because it's not a sitcom setup. It is.
Yeah, it isn't allowed to just drop that facade when it wants to be a normal show again.
But for what it is, it's firing on all cylinders, you know, pretty much. And you get a lot out of it through all these different genres.
It's the best. It's, I think, like one of the best case scenarios of doing a comedy murder mystery television show. Like, it's kind of the best possible version of this type of story.
And it gets, I don't know, it gets new novelty out of the idea because like the self-awareness in TV it's not novel anymore. Like Community, me when I was 14, I was like, oh my God, this is made by people who watch TV like me. Like,
yeah, exactly. Well, it's the best. Well, I don't know if best is the right word, but it's the episodes of Community that went farthest from the baseline. You know, the ones that strayed furthest from what you think a sitcom should be. Yeah, and it's like that.
Yeah, and they have musical episodes and they have animated episodes.
Right. It's the commitment to the bit. That's what the show does. It's like, okay, we're gonna every episode. If we're gonna do a musical episode, it's gonna be a fucking musical episode.
It's a really, really good meeting of form and function, I think, and I have faith that season 2 is going to accomplish the same thing, but I don't know. I wish there was more space for stuff like this.
Yeah, it kind of got lost in the sauce, but that's why we're here to give you, the audience, what's actually good.
Yeah, and hey. Put down your House of the Dragon and fire up this like little startup called Apple.
Yeah.
Fire up that show instead.
It's the after party. It's Drew's 5 and Hunter and I's 9. All right. Number 4, Hunter.
Let's talk about
4.
Barry. I can talk about a spoiler-free context, so Drew, you don't have to go anywhere. I think this is probably the best season of Barry yet.
Yeah.
Honestly. It gets a lot darker this season.
I know, seeing it in the award shows as a comedy in the comedy category breaks my brain.
It's something that it's kind of moving further and further away from the premise of season 1, which is like this serial killer who's trying to turn over a new leaf and embrace life as like an improv guy, like as a comedian. It's moved so far into telling these like very bleak stories of Barry Berkman and Sally and Hank and Gene and all Fuchs in here, like his whole plot line that happens this season.
Still funny.
It's still fun. That's the thing, is because it's just like, it can be a thing where it's like, it feels like it's starting to get too serious, and it's like, oh, we're just gonna get like I don't know, get fucking just some incredible comedic actors in here, just like do bits this whole time. So then you're just like laughing for the next 4 minutes, and then you're like, oh my God, things are getting serious again. Oh,
it gets so fucking serious.
Elsie Fisher is in this season.
Yeah.
In a recurring bit, as she gets a role in a show alongside Sarah Goldberg, Sally.
Who, that entire plot line is amazing because it encapsulates like everything that we've been keeping up with, this boom in the streaming industry, and like the notorious, like, it's like that South Park joke where it's like, hi, welcome to Netflix, what show would you like greenlighted? Like, you can just call them and they'll greenlight your show, and then they'll cancel it.
Welcome to Netflix, you've been greenlit.
Exactly. And it takes that idea to such extremes where you get high comedy and high drama from the exact same premise. It's unreal what they accomplish. And yeah, the Barry storyline, I think, is one of the darkest things I've seen in TV all year. Like the depths that they sink this character into, the lows that he goes to. I just don't I don't see how it can get any lower.
And I mean, it's bleak without ever losing entertainment value, because there's one thing like you to just make your show dark, depraved, whatever. If the actual watchability of it goes down, then that can be a detriment to the show. Not necessarily always, because I watch some kind of depraved shit.
Well, the craft is always there. The shots, the editing.
So that's the thing, is I think that this is easily like the most well-directed season. The motorcycle chase episode.
Yeah. I've never seen a chase sequence shot like that.
It's the Bill Hader episode. It's 710 North, 710N. Is I think better than Ronnie Lilly as far as just like incredible piece of like action filmmaking directing here, that like I was like gripping the seats of my couch as I'm sitting here watching this, and like, I can't believe that now we're doing this. I've never seen this. I've never seen somebody like speeding down a motorcycle in between like stop traffic on LA and it sound and look like this before. It's has such a level of craft and technical expertise to it that is unbelievable. And where the story ends in season 3, again, no spoilers, it kind of ends in a point where it's like, I don't know what's next. And I think that all 3 of the seasons...
four has to be the last season.
Well, like, I don't know, because every season has ended with a point where you're like,
how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to get
out of this? Season 1, it starts with Barry killing what's her name, the detective.
Oh, that's the end of 1.
Yeah, it's just like starting now, and then season 2 ends with like another big Barry moment, and then season 3 ends with like the biggest plot moment yet. So like, this show's special, man. It's so good. Everything that Bill Hader's doing is just like operating on such a level. He's one of those guys where it's just like, he has the Donald Glover trait where it's like, can you not be good at everything? Can you please just share the wealth a little bit, my guy? Of like, why? Oh, so now you're just going to be like a perfect director too, to just go along with being like one of the funniest actors of the last 20 years? Like, this isn't fair.
This is his thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you've heard him in interviews, he is a movie nerd. He is a director nerd. And he
always wanted to, he has the Ben Stiller thing where he always wanted to be a director, and then he's like, oh, I'm funny, so I guess I'm just going to be a comedic actor now.
Bill Hader he'll direct a movie and it'll be incredible within the next 5 years.
The very rare zero Nepo baby story. Mm-hmm. No nepotism with that guy. He's from Oklahoma, and his family is not industry. Like, he's just a dork. And he, his SNL story, it was very, very lucky how he got it. But yeah, he got it because he's just good. Like, he didn't, like, he's put a ton of work in, but he has the ability to see something and effectively learn how to do it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I have heard that season 4 he will direct every single episode of season 4.
Whoa, he's taking it from Alec Berg.
Yeah,
he's just like,
that's
hey,
what I've heard.
But I mean, Alec Berg. I'm not going to take anything away from Alec Berg. Is also an incredible director and kind of helps write this whole thing. Like co-show runs this thing with Bill Hader. So
I am so glad that this show is back. Big gap between seasons. Season 2 was 2019, and then we got 3 in 2022. That might be why, like, you know, in Atlanta, which we'll get to in a bit, but why people kind of forgot about this show because it just was gone from our lives for so long.
That's a long time.
it is a long. I mean, yeah, pre-pandemic,
and it wasn't an early 2022 show either.
It was like April, May. Yeah.
The thing is, this is just like one of my favorites. This is going to be in the top 5 every single year that they put out a season. Like this is just one of my favorite shows. So
quality shit.
And this is the best year yet. So I love it.
Barry, Hunters 4, my 5. Drew, actually we're at my number 4, which is Atlanta.
Save it.
Okay. Drew, you're number 4.
My number 4 is
Don't say it.
This is the two that I was flipping the absolute most, and I almost want to flip it in the moment right now. But I'm going to say that my number 4 is The Bear.
You're going to have to wait on that one. You're going to have to wait on that one.
Oh my God. So we're top 3 now.
Top 3, baby.
I think that we have all of our top 3 is going to be on everybody's, at least one other person's list. Ernest, I'm scared to say my number 3 because I think it's going to hurt your feelings.
Okay, tell me.
My number 3 is Better Call Saul.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait on that one.
Here's the thing. We are now, I said it at the very top. My top 3, I think, are all 10 out of 10 perfect seasons, and there's an argument for all of them to be
First of all, how dare you?
Plane.
How fucking dare you?
Actually...
All right, so we're swinging back around to my number 3. Oh man, this is prime Wabam right now. We're just saying names of shows without actually talking about them. My number 3 is The Rehearsal.
This is what the people want.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait on that one.
True. Number 3,
White Lotus.
All right, let's
okay,
talk
we
White
can talk
Lotus.
about the White Lotus.
Ooh, I wanted to keep going.
I love this show. It's in my top 20.
I love the show, love the season. There's an argument for it to be lower on my list because I rewatched good chunks of season 1, and I think it's better. Season 2 is way more outsized. It's bigger. Like it is broader, I would say, comedically. Like the character, it still manages to like zero in on what it is, which is it's a comedy of manners. You know, you're I forget who said it, but some critics said that it's almost like you're watching a reality show with like, you know, like that's why it's a good couple show, for example, because you're zeroing in on like the little tiny interactions that people are making and like making a mountain out of a molehill. You're like, holy fuck, like he raises eyebrows there. He wants to fuck. In the same way that you would like watching Survivor or something like that. That said, I don't know. I don't want to say that the story gets away from Mike White because it doesn't, because he remembers that the story comes secondary. It's like you said, it's a mystery box where the mystery doesn't matter.
I think that the biggest credit to the show, it's the same thing as season 1, is that it's just he writes characters and like he writes themes better than just about any other director. Like season 1 is just like, I want to make this incredibly like gutting tale about class. And then season 2 is just like, I want to tell a story about sex and how sex corrupts everyone and everyone can be corrupted by sex and power. And at that, it's just like, well, he's just the best at doing that. Like I don't really know anybody else who's doing, I have it at 8 on my list and like it could be higher because he also is able to simultaneously do the thing where he is revitalizing careers, thinking specifically of Jennifer Coolidge, of our guy, Michael Imperioli, who's just F. Murray Abraham needs no revitalization. He's an absolute stone cold legend.
King.
But also able to make movie stars. Theo James and who is it?
Ethan.
Well, Theo
Ethan.
James, who plays not so much on Ethan. I have different thoughts on Ethan, who I think is the weakest part of the show.
Yeah, that guy's like a wet towel.
Cameron.
Theo James plays Cameron. What is his wife's name? The actress who plays.
Oh, well, Daphne is the character.
No. I'm trying to figure out what Daphne's the actress
Megan
name is.
Fahey.
Both of those are just like straight up movie stars. Like, I want to put those guys in everything. Especially, I mean, Theo James has just the leading man persona to him that like there's after seeing him in White Lotus, he has the body of a leading man, but now I'm like, there's something dark under the surface that I'm gonna see in him in every performance that he's giving. Megan Fahey is playing such a nuanced role in this show. And the more farther apart I get from White Lotus, the more I think about her and her character and how leveled of a performance she's giving, because she's the only person who's like come to a state of acceptance in her situation. And it's just like, I'm going to extract my revenge here in the most tactical way possible. Spoilers for White Lotus season 2, but specifically thinking of you should get yourself a trainer. He's so cute. He has like blonde hair and blue eyes. Here's a picture of him, and then shows a picture of her oldest son. I was like, oh my God, that's so ice cold right there.
And then the button at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I mentioned
there's this island over there. We should go check it out.
Well, no, I mentioned this when you and I talked about it, Drew, but the moment where Cam is looking in the mirror flossing because he doesn't want to go talk to the kids that are not his kids.
Yeah, he knows, especially at least the oldest one, he knows that ain't his fucking kid, dude.
That's such a good little
so
last moment for that arc. Like, oh, it's so good. I love the show. I think that Mike White, we'll see with season 3, but he's kind of like carving out his own little playground here to kind of do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And go to exotic locales and hang out with his friends and just like fuck around and make just cool shit.
Just get HBO to throw him hundreds of millions of dollars to like just be in the most beautiful places in the world.
It's great.
Yeah.
Then go to the Golden Globes and just get plastered.
And cry, just sob
at Jennifer Coolidge's acceptance speeches. Rules.
It's a great season of TV. It has one of my favorite things that any show, because like I see these seasons as like I act as if they're a TV show. So this would be the equivalent of if in like, in season 2, when a character is introduced on a TV show that just absolutely slays, or season 3, that's Tom Hollander when he comes in like ep 3 of this. When he comes in, it is the right moment to introduce something new. Like, and he brings exactly what I was missing from the season. Him and his entire cohort, including the kid
Yes,
we talked about this.
Yeah, who's one of my favorite performances on the show. Like just perfectly slimy, grimy.
But
and
he's
dark.
not presented that way. At first,
Leo Woodall as Jack.
He's presented in a way where he's like the bad boy.
Yeah.
But not necessarily. And he kind of ends up in a weird place where he's like almost a henchman more than he's necessarily like the perpetrator of evil. It's just, this show does such a good job of writing a fine line of even, and I'll try and tiptoe around spoilers, but even like as the season's ending, if you've seen the first White Lotus, it ends with a murder. I was questioning like, is there a reason to be freaked out here? Are we like good? They're just like paranoia creeping in here. Like as we're sitting there on the boat, I'm like,
oh, in the last episode?
Yeah, I was just like, is she just like kind of over exaggerating here? Are things like fine? Like, is it just like, are they just trying to make a pitch on why she should invest in like renovating old Italian homes here? And like, it does do a good job of kind of keeping that mystery aspect without the show ever becoming about the mystery.
Well, the writing, it plays around, you know, it makes you.
It's very fun.
It reminds you that, like, yes, this is a murder mystery, but we're going to have fun with it. We're going to, like, I don't know. His writing style is like, he knows that you know that you're trying to outpace him, that you're trying to outthink him, and he's throwing in little things to try to throw you off. And it just makes for a fun watching experience, you know? It keeps it engaging, it keeps it fun.
Also, just want to give a shout out to Haley Lou Richardson, who plays Portia. Who I hadn't really seen her in anything before.
Hey, she's in After Yang.
She is in After that. Well, that's what I was gonna say before this year. Okay. I have not seen her in anything because I recognized her from After Yang, and I was like, oh,
I didn't.
It's Ada.
She looks completely different.
I couldn't place her on the spot, but also I know she was in Edge of 17, which was the main thing that I recognized her from. A movie that I loved. What was that, like 6 years ago? Yeah, 7 years ago. But I thought that she was really incredible and really the closeted MVPs of the entire show. And I don't know how much y'all talked about it whenever you did your White Lotus review. Is Beatrice Grano and Simona Tabasco.
Oh, the sex workers?
Who plays who's it? Mia and Lucia?
Yeah.
Is that her name? Lucia. Yeah, Mia and Lucia. Which in a show that's in a season of television that's all about sex, they fucking own as like the escorts, the hookers, as the sex. Like they have such a moment to shine, and I feel like they become kind of the glue to keep the show together and to make all these interstitial plot lines between the three generations and the two couples, and like they kind of unite everything in this like really, really beautiful way. And how their story ends is just manager, like beautiful. Yeah, of course.
Or not, or I don't, is she a manager?
Yeah, Valentina. Yeah. Which I will say, I don't want to say it, but like, you know,
we didn't have Murray Bartlett.
I think that she's great. I think that Sabrina Impasatore is doing great work, but I was missing her by Murray Bartlett as Armand.
Incredible.
There's no Murray Bartlett.
Hey, I'm pulling the lever. I'm cranking open the spotlight. We're shining the light. Murray Bartlett is back this weekend. I don't know if he's in the episode, but he is in The Last of Us. He will be back on our screens and at HBO.
And HBO. A role that's been described as different.
I think he's playing the same role in the White Lotus. I think he's playing the same character. It's a flashback, right? Isn't The Last of Us a flashback to White Lotus? It's a prequel.
Yeah. That's where it all starts.
Yeah. Cool.
It all starts at the White Lotus.
Do we think there's going to be a recurring character from this that's going to pop up on next season? Like Jennifer.
Are they going to keep doing that?
Season 2? I kind of would think it's fun if they bring one character over from each season. I mean, really low key, it could just be John Grease pops up as Greg. Based on without spoiling the events of season 2.
That would be crazy.
Our guy might appear in season 3. So
people have been talking of praying that Laura Dern will show up in season 3 because she voice acts in season 2. Yeah.
Wait, what?
She's his wife. She's
Imperioli's wife.
She's Moltisanti's
screaming at him.
Oh my God! I did not know that's the Queen Laura Dern.
Yeah.
Voice cameo.
How about this? Can we get Laura Dern to go there? And can we get what is Ethan's wife? She's not on the Wikipedia for some reason.
Aubrey Plaza?
Or no, not Ethan.
Daphne.
Can we get Daphne to get out of that fucked relationship with Cameron, and can we just have the two of them palling around? And what's the next Tropical? We've been to Hawaii. Mike
White has been teasing Japan. That's the tease. So nothing's been confirmed, but that's what he teased.
It's going to be about weebs.
Yeah,
the season 3 theme.
The whites take Japan. Here's the pitch. Albie, Adam DeMarco. He becomes a big fan of big titty Japanese women.
Jesus Christ.
And he wants one for himself. And he will stop at nothing.
He's going to be, well, I mean, he's still a good boy. He's just a good guy. Maybe.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
I don't know. The way that it ends in the airport with all three generations kind of looking back at it. Great ending moment.
Men be horny.
Yeah, men do be hornies though.
I think you just gave me a great idea, which this can be related to the Albie plot or not, but a dude who's so into like a specific artist, like hentai porn, that he kidnaps them like Misery and ties them up. You know, he's like, no, her areolas wouldn't look like that.
It's Silence of the Lambs meets meets like weeb culture.
Oh my God. Would it be, I mean, in terms of male characters, there's not a lot of options for that. Unless you bring someone back from the first season.
That's what Travis Bickle would be doing in 2023.
Yeah. Like you bring back Quinn.
You
bring back
the uwu on the skin.
Steve Zahn's son.
Oh,
in the first season.
Nah, Quinn is freed. Quinn is a new man by the end of that season. Quinn rocks.
Any last thoughts on White Lotus before we move on?
Great show. Great show.
Excellent show.
All right. That is Drew's 3 and Hunter's 8. So we are back at 2. Hunter, what's your 2?
Atlanta.
Drew, can we talk about it yet? Did you mention it?
I didn't finish Atlanta.
Oh, it's not on your list. Okay, so let's talk about it.
Here's the thing about Atlanta. It is up there with my favorite shows ever made. It's like truly on my pantheon of just like, I think that at least for television that I have watched, I think that it is on the A tier, on the tippy top tier with the best television shows of our generation. I think that it's kind of undeniable. I think everything that it does. Season 3, people hated at the time, and I think that there is going to be turn. I think that I keep thinking about the quote from Andy Greenwald of The Watch, where he said
he wasn't a fan, right?
He was not a fan.
Yeah.
Where he said, some shows like can go off the rails in a certain season, and Atlanta season 3 decided that they no longer believe in trains. Which is a perfect way to state what happens there, because it kind of just abandons plot altogether.
It abandons the characters and the stories. It says,
actually, let's just not spend any time with Lakeith Stanfield. And
we're actually going to spend half this season just going all in on like these urban myths and legends,
and just doing like we're just going to make like 8 short films, basically.
Yeah. But you still they sprinkle in the European, adventures of our crew. And that's some of the best stuff too. And, we talked about it in the mid-year draft, but this cast, these people, these artists, they're very busy. They have a lot going on. It was a lot to ask, also throw in a fucking global pandemic to get more out of them. And we're lucky we got what we got. And so I think the short films, the anthology episodes, were just a way to pad out the season so that it wasn't, just a 5-episode season. So I get from the production angle, from the behind the scenes angle, why they did it. But from a thematic angle, it adds so much more to the overall ambition of the project to be like, okay, it's not just about these people. It's also about these bigger ideas about society and culture and how we relate to each other and how we turn on each other. And when we decide to fall in line with the norms of culture, or when a wrench is thrown into those norms and how we react to them. I don't know if it always works 100%, but it's fucking swinging for the fences, man. It's going for it.
That's the thing about, and I mostly want to talk about season 4 because if I had to put one season of this show, then it would be season 4. Of course, they released 2 seasons this year.
Only one anthology episode.
Yeah,
the goof. What is it called? The goof who stood by the door.
Oh man, goddamn that episode. We'll get to it in a moment, but I think that's the thing that you mentioned about just swinging for the fences is the thing that I admire most about season 3. And the reason why I think that the season's going to age incredible. Atlanta as a whole is going to age so well, dude. It's kind of timeless. I think that 20 years from now, you could come back to this show and watch it and it's going to age like fucking fine wine. And a season like season 3, I could easily see it being revitalized as is this the best season of Atlanta? Because it is so going for just everything of we want to tell every story that we can, and we have so many different ideas. We're gonna do an episode about what if reparations happened, and none of our guys are going to be in it, but you know who's gonna be in it? Remember that dude from National Treasure? Yeah, we're gonna bring him in. He's gonna be the main character for this episode. It's doing all these kind of crazy wild things, and you're right, it doesn't have 100% hit rate. I would even say it's the worst season of Atlanta. But this also as a just piece of television of art is the best thing.
The Europe episodes I think are all bangers.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah. I still think that season 3 alone would have made my list. I don't know if it would have made if I was just looking at season 3, I don't know if it would have ended up at number 2 necessarily.
Yeah,
but
maybe 8, somewhere around that.
Yeah, range. More in the mid range. I want to talk about season 4 though. Because
dude, it goes out on a high note.
Here's the thing: season 4 is it vies for being the best season of Atlanta yet. So. It's just so perfect in everything it's doing.
It closes all the loops, all the questions that you have about these people and who they are and what their origin is and where they're going in life. It ties it all up.
But in the most Atlanta way possible. Yeah. It's never a
very special episode of Atlanta.
Yeah, it's never going to be here's a plot heavy exposition episode of Atlanta.
It gives you just enough.
Telling you all these things. And so many thoughts about the finale, which is just, oh my God. Talk about just a finale that just not necessarily, it doesn't have the emotional gut punch of the season finale of Reservoir Dogs, but of just something that made me so emotionally overwhelmed while watching because of just spending so much time with these characters. We'll get to that in a second, but I just think that where the season goes as a whole, especially some major highlights for me are The Homeliest Little Horse, which is a masterclass in spite. I consider myself, I can be a little bit spiteful at times.
The greatest prank of all time.
It's really it's something that you're just watching and it's I clapped my hands while watching the episode. I was like, bravo, you did it. You had this whole other plot thread and I was wondering what
the fuck is happening?
Well, season 3 has some plot threads that you think are going to connect back in. They don't ever really connect back in. So I almost was watching episode 2 thinking oh, maybe this is just kind of its own story. Yeah. Maybe it's thematically it's going to teach us some kind of a lesson. And the way that it loops back in is so beautiful. I think my favorite episode of the entire season is White Ethic, which is when they go to the Tyler Perry studios.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh my
Mr.
God.
Chocolate.
Mr. Chocolate.
Donald Glover just...
I cannot... No. I cannot believe
that man.
Everything.
Donald Glover is insane. He is a crazy person.
My mouth was just dropped the entire episode because I could not believe what was happening.
Yeah. It's almost like it's like the Wizard of Oz, but it's Tyler Perry in this facility that's its own nation inside of Atlanta with its own government.
This will be the last time I reference another podcast, but I think that listening to the Prestige TV Ringer podcast episode with Van and Charles about this episode in particular is required listening. Yeah. After watching this episode,
they killed it.
It's so much about it is talking about the Tyler Perry of it all, and there's some mean-spiritedness to it, like a real level of like kind of like this man is destroying black culture by making like schlock and making stuff that's just for like black audiences and
cranking it out in like an assembly line fashion.
Move on to the next shot. That was just a blocking scene. Move on to the next shot.
We'll fix it in post.
It's so good. It's so good. And like, there's that, but also it's not just entirely mean-spirited. Like, there is something about like,
it's opportunity.
Criticize?
It's work.
Yeah, it's work. It's giving people who don't otherwise have the opportunity to work in this industry a chance to work in this industry. Like Tyler Perry Studios, Tyler Perry Studios where he owns is where Black Panther was shot. Like it is not something that's just producing Medea films. Like it is like a real place and opportunity for people who did not historically necessarily have that chance to get there. So everything that episode is trying to communicate, and then meanwhile, the conclusion of just seeing Donald Glover with a beret and PJs on, and like a fat suit.
It's him letting you know, like, I still got it. Like we've been gone for a minute. You might have forgotten, but we still fucking got it. Because it's like you're waiting for him to like, is he gonna do Teddy Perkins again?
Yeah,
like,
we're gonna get another one of those like big transformation episodes.
Yeah,
and there's a little bit of that. But also the way that Atlanta does an A plot and a B plot in any given episode is just kind of better than it. It kind of harkens back to like Community, where the B plots become just as interesting as the A plots, and kind of the two are interlaced.
The guy that one episode where where Paperboy goes to the mall.
The Crank That Killer episode, dude, and Ern and them are just trying to get some shoes, and they're like, "Let me see you kiss. Come on, kiss for me."
It's so good.
It's so good. It's a perfect send off for this show.
It brings the thing the fourth season does is it brings it back to basics for the most part. Like you still get these touches of like the grandeur that the show became, but it has a lot of moments that feel like early season 1 Atlanta, where it's just like, all right, we're just gonna give you something really simple, but we're gonna go all in on it, and we're gonna explore every nook and cranny of this really simple plot. But we're going to do it in a way that nobody else could ever do it.
Drew just walked back, so I don't want to necessarily spoil one of the episodes, but the goof who sat by the door that you mentioned is another just absolute standout. It's an episode that I don't even want to mention where that episode goes because it was such a thrill to watch it live, that like revisionist history of a
incredible
classic Disney's 90s film in a documentary
guess by the
form.
title of the episode.
It's so good. But I just think the special thing about Atlanta is that we've talked about kind of the laughs that it gives you, the humor, but also like it still does have the ability to like give you an existential crisis in any given episode. It still has the ability to just kind of completely gut you in a way of like giving you something that's so emotionally effective and so emotionally poignant. The snipe hunt episode that's just kind of a one-off of Ern and Van and Lottie.
I needed that episode.
It's something that like I just I watched it early in the morning for some reason.
The whole fucking series, you're wondering what is going on with Ern and Van. What is their deal?
You need that moment that's just like, oh man, I wasn't prepared for this. I was expecting another like Crank That Killer episode to somebody trying to kill people who made Soulja Boy videos. I wasn't ready for this.
So lovely.
It's so good. And then the final episode, it was all a dream.
A Darius episode. You gotta end it on Darius.
It ends on a Darius episode, but I just
shout out to the show. I'm gonna miss it so much. Shout out to Donald Glover, fucking Lakeith, fucking
Brian Tyree Henry, just one of the best actors
Zazie
that we have
Beetz,
working.
Hiro Murai. Oh my God.
It's so perfect. Like, this show is just so special, and it's just going to stay in my heart forever. That, like, this is one of the best pieces of art that we will have. I've already started rewatching it. I've started rewatching it with wife of the pod, Gaia, because I'm like, I just want to I want this to, like, how I used to be with The Office. I'm cool with just doing that with Atlanta. We can just keep a constant loop of episodes running at all times in our house, because this show's that special to me. I love it so, so much.
Atlanta. It's Hunter's number 2, my number 4. Drew, number 2.
Drew's not a fan of Donald Glover. He's talked about this in the past.
My number 2 is, I believe, your number 2, Mr. Bear.
Wait, I thought you had already brought up the bear.
No. Did I?
What was your number 4?
Ah, fuck. Did I? Man.
Have you talked about Severance?
I think you said bear at 4. That's what I wrote down.
I'm sorry. My number 2 is The Rehearsal.
You have to save it. You're going to have to save that, buddy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Shocking.
God damn.
Shocking moment that Drew did not put The Rehearsal at number 1.
My number 2.
Blindsided.
Oh my God. Severance is that good, man.
I'm hurt.
Fuck.
I'm appalled.
Ben Stiller getting his dick sucked tonight.
Yeah.
Shit.
Benny, get back over here.
By Nathan Fielder.
This is what he does it for.
Okay. Let's talk about the bear. My number 2. Oh, wait. I'm skipping over your number 2. Oh, wait.
No, my number 2 is Atlanta.
God.
Man, this is
This is good podcasting is what this
so
is.
many skips. The columns in the spreadsheet are in the wrong order.
Wait, what why did you do this?
My
what is
note is so fucked. That's how I fucked that up.
Because the order is Hunter, me, Drew, but that's not the order of the columns.
And then Drew hopped up in here in the middle between both of us, so it's jumping around. And
the bear.
It's okay.
Also, when I went to go to the bathroom, my migraine came back, so I sat down to piss. It's just so I could, like, shut my eyes.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cousin. What's up, you fucking replicants?
I think that there's a silent majority of people who are not getting why the bear is so high on so many lists. And I think that you can't treat it like a magic eye puzzle. You can't look at it too hard. You know what I mean? It's like surface level perfect show. Like, it just is.
So, the title of this episode is the best TV shows. And I definitely think that The Bear is one of the best TV shows, but more so than that, it's a documentary about what it's like to work in the service industry.
As all three of us are from the service industry, we were hardened by the flames of a flat top grill. So I think that makes us predisposed to love a show like The Bear.
As many people are in our generation. Like, most people that have either worked in the kitchen or served at a restaurant or anything relating to this world. And as you boys know, I am a huge fan of movies about food. Ratatouille is a staple of this podcast.
Burnt.
Bradley Cooper's Burnt, which I watched in an airport.
Ratatouille, I didn't want to brush past that. Ratatouille is one of the best movies of the 21st century.
Yeah, we love Pig, Nick Cage, Pig. There's a
chef.
The thing about, like, the stories about food is a lot of times, like, they're either not that good or they don't capture, like, what it's actually like to work in this environment. They focus on other things, on, like, how food tastes or some romance.
Yeah, they romanticize the food industry.
Right. This is about the chaos, the pain, the fucking just nonstop freight train, in your face fucking insanity of what it's like to be in a fast-paced kitchen. And there are times during this show where you might feel like it's overdone a little bit, like it's cranked up a little bit too high. But I've talked to people that have been in restaurants where it's fucking cranked up too high.
Yeah, no, I think that, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of that complaint with that show. I think, if anything, one thing that I've heard about this show is that And it's funny that I've heard this complaint against this show, because this is actually one of the biggest things that I love about this, is that this feels like a TV show. This feels like a show that was made to be around for 5 seasons, where a lot of shows like this are like, we got to fucking throw everything at this because we have to put every plot thread out here. We have to throw everything on the page. We have to have a whole episode about this one thing, because these are all these ideas that we have.
It's a cast of characters in one location, and you get to know them as they interact in that location.
Yeah.
That's every great TV show.
Jeremy Allen White is one of 2 guys who I've had to convince Gaia is hot over the course of this year, and she's now bought in. Yeah, no, she was like, she saw it and she wasn't into it. The other one, Glenn Powell. And then she saw Glenn Powell.
Well, I get that one.
She saw Glenn Powell speaking at the Golden Globes last night, and she's like, I don't know, I kind of have butterflies in my stomach when he speaks. And I'm like, I told you, look at him. He's
and
a
she
cutie
didn't
pie.
when Jeremy Allen White won his Golden Globe?
I think it's because from Shameless, she wasn't really as into him.
Well, he has short hair in that.
But now it's just like, you have to see him. He's working in a kitchen, and he looks crazy depressed and sleep deprived. And she's like, all right, now I can buy in.
So when he won his Globe the other night, I immediately in my head clocked like, okay, it's because of the finale, because he gives this incredible monologue, one take monologue that just unlocks like so much pain. Because this, as much as this show is about like restaurant culture and all this, it's also about loss and grief.
Yeah,
because there's the character of Mikey that kills himself. That's not a spoiler. That's like the premise of the show is Carmy is working at the restaurant because his brother killed himself and left him the restaurant. It hangs over the entire story. And it's not until the last episode that you get this like catharsis in this Al-Anon speech that he gives. And when the Globes happened the other night, I was like, yeah, he won because of that speech, because it's an incredible piece of acting, an amazing monologue. And then I went back after the Globes last night, and yesterday, I almost watched this entire show again. I had to skip a little bit because I didn't have enough time. I watched like the first 3 episodes and then like the last 2.
You had to watch the second to last. You got to watch the one take episode.
That's what I was about to say.
You got to watch that.
I watched the fucking episode 7, and then I was like, oh, my boy won for this episode too. Yeah. He is unreal.
Yeah, it's just, it's the type of stuff that a lot of the time, if you were to describe it to me, might come across as annoying. Like, it sounds super crafty, the show, like craft heavy, and it is. There's Christopher Storer, you know, he's taken a lot of people, you know, out like by surprise, because he doesn't have a ton to his name before this. But yeah, there's a one take episode that doesn't feel like it is trying to show you what a director can do. Like, it is well acted, well paced, well conceived. It makes sense for it to be one take.
Well, for the feeling, because we've all been there when those fucking tickets don't stop coming out.
Yep.
And they keep coming and coming. And if you've worked at a restaurant before, you know you've had a day when you wanted to quit on the spot. Everyone has had that day. And that's the feeling that this episode
You get
is.
one plate out and then 4 more come in. It's just one of those things that just, it feels like you're going to drown. And this does capture that feeling of feeling like you're going to drown. But it's also, this isn't like an Uncut Gems show where it's just the entire movie is running at that level. I think that one of the good things about the show is that there are quiet moments in here. I think that the quiet character moments work exceedingly well, because I think without those moments, you have a show that's really good, but not necessarily a show that is as transcendent as this is, at least this one season of television. Between Jeremy Allen White, Eben Moss-Bachrach, who we mentioned earlier.
Dude, he is
Cousin Richie.
Fucking unreal.
Cousin Richie, immediately an iconic character.
Yeah.
Just like immediately
this is John Bernthal status, who is also in this fucking show. Yeah. Just dropping his fucking dick on the table.
What a year.
But it approaches that level of just like, oh my God,
I want first episode when he just like busts out a gun, just like shoots in the air, like when there's people like crowd, like, hey,
what's up, you motherfucking, you Snyder cut 4chan QAnon motherfuckers.
It's I mean, all around it rules. I've been listening to the Io Debris on podcast since like,
oh man,
I think like since like 2017.
She's special. She's really good.
So
in this.
good.
Yeah, she's going to have a crazy career. She's still, I mean, she's not, someone who just like looks young, so they take young roles. She's just young.
Yeah.
And she's phenomenal.
She goes toe to toe with these aggro ass motherfuckers.
Yeah, she's playing a very lived in character. The show generally feels very lived in, and I think the crux of the argument for why I would recommend it to people is the monologue episode, because that's the exact type of episode I would usually it would lose me. I'm not a fan of that type of writing and acting, because I especially in a show like this that largely does stick to some conceivable reality.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing to write in a conceivable reality, and they do it. It's a monologue that like moment to moment feels like it is happening.
Yeah.
It has an emotional through line to it that isn't orated. You're not being told a story. It feels
real.
It feels like someone is genuinely in a very measured pace spilling his guts.
Yeah.
And that's
someone who doesn't usually do that type of thing.
Yeah,
and that's the type of character they set up. His relationship with Richie, they don't talk.
Yeah,
they don't get vulnerable.
Yeah, and his sister too.
Right, Sugar.
So I don't know. It's all very sensible and thought out. And that's fucking craft, because what those episodes come down to, it's not about shot selection and like location scouting and budget meetings. That is the episode that is all about rehearsal. Like that is the entirety of the episode, is the director and writer, sitting there with the actor thinking like, okay, in this moment, do we want to pause or do we want to keep, you know what I mean? It's a million micro decisions that end up feeling like they're not decisions at all. And that, I think, is the hardest thing that you can do in television. So congrats. It's and like you said, Hunter, the show leaves so much on the bone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like, there's so much. There's
season
so
2
much
could
left.
just be better.
The
than
tomato
season
cans.
1.
Yeah,
what's gonna happen with all that?
Because it's short. The episodes are short. Not a lot of plot happens. Like
it's like 8 half-hour episodes.
Yeah,
like
and
4
they're
hours
not,
total.
They vary in pace and they vary in structure. Like one of them is just a side quest to go
the birthday party,
cater a kid's party, and you learn about the character's past and the exposition, and also it's funny. And also it's still an acting and directing
and
showcase.
Accidentally giving some kids some Xanax.
I love that.
It's fine.
Can we do that? Is that allowed?
I have a godchild, and I'm going to go ahead and say, please don't give my godchild Xanax.
Wow, I mean that's that. I don't think I've ever heard someone flex being a godparent.
I think we should give it a shot. I'm the godfather. Any last thoughts on The Bear?
It's a great show, man.
John
I
Bernthal?
can't wait for it to come back. It's supposed to come out summer 2023. I don't think it has actual release date, but
the John Bernthal bit in The Bear warmed my heart so much, because you're waiting to see who the fuck Mikey is. Like he just hangs
You're
over
like,
this story.
better be John Bernthal.
And then when it cuts, oh my God. Well, that episode starts with the flashback of him telling the story and making the whatever food he's making. And it's just like, it all clicks. Like talk about perfect casting, where it's like, as soon as you see him, it's like, oh, of course this guy left such a fucking hole in these people's lives.
He's Wayne Jenkins.
it's fucking Wayne Jenkins. He actually isn't dead. He didn't kill himself. He's just in prison for 25 years.
Well, talk about range too. You
Our
go
guy.
from We Own This City, like the terrifying, just insanity of that, to just, oh man, I love this guy. This guy warms my heart.
I did want to say, I put this at number 5 on my list. It could have been higher, but part of me almost wanted to pair this with Reservoir Dogs. Reservation Dogs. It's a good thing that I never made that mistake ever before in the last 2 hours with the Reservation Dogs, because both of them have kind of a little bit of a similar premise, where it's like a person or a group of people who's like really deeply emotionally affected by somebody close to them in their lives who committed suicide.
Yeah.
And the suicide does not feel like a plot device. It does not feel like that's just a thing to put you in a situation and it has no actual meaning behind it. I think that both Reservation Dogs and The Bear, the way that they kind of tackle the grief and kind of the level of depression that you can have in your life when there is somebody in your life who they did not die because of some natural cause or even because of a disease, but because of they were taken too young because of something that is in a way preventable. I think that like the way that both those shows handle that idea is just like so beautifully done. And the cloud that the death of these characters, who for the most part you don't see in either of these shows, you can feel the gravity of the situations on all the characters. And I think that the way that is handled is just beautiful.
Amazing.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef. Real quick, I did a quick Google about movies about food. I want you to tell me, is season 1 of The Bear, just talking about the food wise, is it better or worse than The Menu?
Better.
Wait, come on.
Sausage Party.
Way
Worse.
better.
Julie and Julia.
Haven't seen it, but I'm going to say better.
Ratatouille. Let's say worse. Come on, you can't compare it to Ratatouille.
Ratatouille's better.
Ratatouille is like one of the best movies ever.
Last one, A Bug's Life.
What?
It's a movie about food, according to this. It's a fantasy food film.
I do have.
I mean, the way that like eating grub is. And the way that like eating the little grubs that they eat in Lion King is food.
Hunter, I have a letterbox.
I know
list.
that this was just me inviting you to pull up letterbox real quick.
God damn it!
It's going to be just the exact same title.
It's called The Great Movie Bake Off.
It's Burnt. It's The Founder.
All right.
It's
Ratatouille. First Cow. The little dumplings.
Those are some
the cakes.
Yummy ass
oil
yummy
cakes.
ass cakes.
Man, retroactively, I'd like to award that movie with the Mank Award.
What's the Mank Award?
Watch it on 1.25 times speed.
Hell yeah.
That bitch is slow.
That movie is like the ultimate like what's the bit, the like Putters and Murmurs award of just
hey,
like,
don't talk shit about First Cow right now. We're celebrating
no,
food.
I love that movie. First Cow made all of our top 10s. I love First Cow. Kelly Reichardt has a movie coming out this year. I'm excited for it.
Chef. Obviously.
Yes, Chef.
Big Night. Big Night, very underrated film starring Stanley Tucci about a restaurant.
What about
it's directed by Stanley Tucci.
You sound like you have not seen this.
No, I've seen it.
Have you guys ever
with
seen
Tony Shalhoub?
Have you guys ever seen No Reservations?
The show.
It's on my list to one day check out.
Cool.
Hey, Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off.
True.
There you go.
Eddie Dogs, anyone? Okay, so
My Dinner with Andre. There's a dinner involved there.
We're acting like we're like vamping. Like, man, we got to stretch this episode out. It's just not long enough.
Long enough. I have made Gaia, like every time that I'm in the kitchen cooking something with Gaia, I go, yes, chef. And she says,
Yes,
please
chef.
stop saying that.
and
I'm not going to
You
stop.
try to like crawl up into her hair and start like yanking on it.
I've been doing that.
I love The Bear. Like I said, I watched a bunch of it last night. That's why it moved up my list. Maybe recency bias, but I couldn't help it. It's just that good. Mm-hmm. It's that fucking good. It encapsulates that feeling so perfectly.
It's a good combo of very complex yet very simple.
Yeah,
my
number 2, and Drew's 4, and Hunter's
5.
There it is. Okay, so we are at 1. Here we are, number 1, Hunter. It's time.
I can't believe that Drew left me out here on Rehearsal Island, but I'm going to be out here. Nathan Fielder put out a 6-episode television season, and I think that this is one of the most inventive pieces of art that I've ever seen in my entire life. It's The Rehearsal.
Yeah, it's like a new kind of thing.
I've watched The Rehearsal, I think 3 times now. I'm rehearsing watching The Rehearsal. to try and change the way that I am with my own behavior. This is so it's funny because while watching the rehearsal, I kept thinking of my least favorite thing in documentary filmmaking is when the documentarian inserts themselves into the story, because normally it feels forced. It feels like you're taking away. Oftentimes in documentaries, especially worse made documentaries, they're only really interesting because the subjects are interesting and there's nothing dynamic with the filmmaking, with the story that they're telling whatsoever. The genius about Nathan Fielder, and it's made me re-examine why I even love Nathan For You in the first place, is that he finds the banal and he finds things that are otherwise just so normal and mundane and not interesting. And he is the thing that inserts interest and inserts dynamism into something that is otherwise just not unique in any way, shape, or form. There's a little bit of this with How To with John Wilson as well, in the most like more broad, artsy kind of way. But the genius of the rehearsal is that Nathan is so beyond. I know part of this is just kind of the magic of editing and kind of letting the story come to you and being able to find pieces of it in post. But at least the story that he's telling with the rehearsal is that he is able to take this superpower that he has, which is kind of this hyper organization and this hyper attention to detail, these flow charts, and create something that is otherwise a not interesting situation and imbue it with so much life and comedy and just really adds so much to what otherwise would be completely uninteresting in aspects of your life that you would never think twice about, like telling somebody that you actually didn't graduate from college and like, we're going to do this thing over and over again. The way that this show constantly evolves episode to episode, it's kind of shocking that this is only 6 episodes long. Like that this is only...
So much happens.
Yeah, this is less than 6 hours of television, and it's just everything that's happening here. I just can't believe how much my jaw was dropped while watching this. Week to week, I could not stop. It's definitely a show it's not for most people because of the level of like cringe is kind of on us. It reaches a plane that most human beings are like, I cannot stand for that. Like
people turned on it.
There's too much. And people are like, Nathan's a sociopath. Yeah, no shit, guys.
And
of course he
him.
is. That's why we embrace him. That's why we use him for like comedy. And he's our, I'm interested to know what season 2 is going to be, because I feel like the rehearsal kind of did become a bit of a moment. And so is there going to be a little bit of a thing where people know the shtick, so people are more resistant to actually take part in these shenanigans that Nathan is driving them down? But I just, this is one of the most special pieces of art that I've seen.
It's yeah, I mean it's fucking amazing. I think it may take a second or two to settle into the fact that we're dealing with like pure structureless TV in this show. When especially because Nathan For You is hyper structured episode to episode. This show, because it is a blank check show for Nathan, there is no oversight to what he's doing. It is like the entire premise is that he can do what he wants with their money. And so he is going to create a bar, brick by brick in a studio warehouse.
And then he's going to move the bar across the country with HBO's money.
Yeah. And so that bleeds into the edit of the show and how our time is spent watching it episode to episode. And yeah, the result is a really, really cool experience. I mean, I totally sympathize with anyone who can't. It's not even the cringiness. It's the morality of the season is really, really tough at points. It's The way that I excuse it, I think I said this when we originally talked about it, is Nathan is doing what it is to be a reality television producer, but he's doing it on camera, which is not no one could ever look good doing that, I guess. Like, for example, the trashiest of trashy MTV shows. Like this year I watched another season of a really bad show on MTV called Are You the One? Like truly like as bad as it gets in terms of exploiting the people on the show.
So what, like number 11 on your list or what?
If it came out this year, brother, it'd be really high because it's pure exploitation of like young, dumb, hot people who just signed up to be on this show, and they are tortured.
That rocks.
They are put in a house where the only thing that they can do is get fucked up and like hurt each other emotionally
in front of a camera.
It is so insanely fucked. I mean, it turns out that you know it becomes like really fucked up, like to the point of that season in particular. Camera people were sort of they let borderline crimes happen on camera and didn't stop it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, because that's what it is to produce reality television. It is waging into the morally murky area of of forcing people to do entertaining things when they don't know what they are being made to do or why. So Nathan is just taking that and saying, I have this really incredible ability to manipulate people within crazy structure.
Let me push it to the furthest reaches possible. Because in Nathan For You, there was still some type of fencing around what he could do. It was helping small businesses bring in more business.
Yeah, and I mean he's doing his shtick. He's the star of the show, but like he doesn't ever insert himself into an episode of Nathan For You in the way that he does with The Rehearsal. The closest thing is Finding Frances, where he becomes kind of this co-lead character in the finale to that. But even he
sprinkled it a little bit throughout Nathan.
Right. But I think, and part of it is just the structure, like you're mentioning, Drew, how it's like, next episode, we're on to a different thing. So, like, as much as this episode's going to be 30 minutes about, like, the hero episode. Honestly, the hero is probably the best example of the closest thing to The Rehearsal, because that's just Nathan fully taking on the role of
I'm going to step
job.
in.
I'm going to pretend to be you here.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of moments throughout Nathan For You that felt like precursors, like No Smokers Allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the bar of that becomes a play about the customers at the bar.
Yeah.
That feels like
that's The Rehearsal.
That feels like The Rehearsal. Like he is hiring people to perform mundane day-to-day situations.
And it's like that's the other element of this, that it might lose some people, but like we're all thrilled that he leaned more into like doing a Kaufman stuff.
Dude, he goes so far into it.
Like Kaufman, like IRL, full on. Like it's just this is synecdoche. Like, it's not. You couldn't call it a ripoff, because to do it in real life is an entirely different endeavor from like a production standpoint, from a writing standpoint.
Yeah, this is at the end
hard.
of the day, you can't go surrealist with this, because this is real life with real people. And the people who he finds, it's like it can't be underrated how he just found these characters.
But then he gets actors to play those people. And then he gets a guy to play himself.
Those. I like that guy.
Benny Safdie looking motherfucker.
Yeah, he's the fourth Safdie.
There are a lot of the the smaller actors that they hired to play real people do phenomenal fucking jobs over the course of the season. The guy who plays Corv, I love.
Dude.
In Ep 1. Ep 1 is an extremely strong pilot.
Well, that was pre-COVID.
It's good point.
I'm so curious about like what happened like if the pandemic made the show be what it was, because it felt like the show was going to be that.
No, it just factually did like change the way the show the way they made the show, and I think that may be why it's my number 2 as opposed to number 1, because I felt that watching it,
the shift.
I felt. And part of it's because he's trying to be more revealing about the behind the scenes of it all. But like, I felt the like, all right, what do we do now? Like, what?
Now we're in a house. We can't leave.
Yeah, we're in the house. This chick sucks.
She loves Apocalypto, though.
You can't stop. I think that all of that like elevated the show. I think that this is the best piece of like COVID art that we are going to get, is because it's so, and I think that the genius of the show that isn't ever talked about is the editing of documentary filmmaking. So much of it is just kind of found in post, even like not necessarily post, but like post on the day. It's just kind of working on the fly and figuring out like, all right, we got to like make some content. We got to pivot this story here somewhere. And I think that this show does that better than anything else. And a lot of that just kind of comes down to Nathan fully willing to insert himself into the story. And I think that's where a lot of people brush up against, and they have that kind of issue that I mentioned on the outset of like, oh, you're like getting to it. You're supposed to be the Jeff Probst here. Jeff Probst isn't on the island with us eating 1 cup of rice per day. Although that would rule. He would.
Maybe that's how you fix Survivor.
Yeah, put Jeff with each of the tribes. No, but like this is somebody who has fully kind of incorporated themselves into the story that we are seeing here. And the dynamic episode to episode is, you're never going to be comfortable. You can never sit down at any given moment, because the moment that you start to rest, the show's going to pivot again. Yeah. The show's going to kind of take another life of its own. You're going to introduce another character, and then we're just going to follow this thread. And then you're going to introduce somebody else, and it's like, wait, what's going on here? Now we have to bring this storyline into here. And we're going to have this child in here, and they grew up, and maybe I realized I actually don't like my relationship with this child actor. So now we're going to do a do-over.
Well, no, it's because he leaves to go do a rehearsal, and he's gone because it's an accelerated life for this kid. And he's gone doing this rehearsal that doesn't work out. The guy just like never shows up again. Yeah. And then he comes back, and the kid's all grown up, and he's like, I missed this kid's life.
That's the thing. Well,
the shot of the kid going down the slide
and then coming back out
younger is like, that's fucking cinema, man. That's so good.
Well, that's the thing. That's something that is found in editing. It's found from Nathan as like a producer of this show as well, is like, when you found this guy and you devoted so much time, so much financial and so many different resources to this, and then he just left, that could be a disaster for a lot of shows. And the fact that they found a way to take this plot thread and then incorporate it back into the main storyline here and find the arc, it's just something I've just like, I can't believe they did it. Like this is why this is the movie of this is the show of 2022, is I don't think that we will ever see a piece of art like this, like ever again. I've never seen anything like this in my life. How are we going to see anything like this ever again?
Yeah, it's hard because the levels of commitment alone that he's able to reach it's hard because it has to come from the executive in control of the show. That's the only person with the power to say, hey, let's pivot and like put me in the house now. Like just choices like that can only come from the very top. And the very top is never someone who is that willing to pursue an idea that's like not guaranteed to make money. There's no precedent. There's no proof of concept that they're showing an executive at the network and being like, well, this show actually did this in season 3.
I don't know.
And it works. No show's ever done any of it.
I don't know how Nathan got the leash to do this. Like, I had a couple moments when watching the show where I was like, did HBO like low-key spend $100 million on the rehearsal? All this stuff. Like
they do a fake Christmas with
is this like as expensive as House of the Dragon because of all of the logistics that they're working on here? They built this set scratch like piece by piece and then like moved it across the entire country. Like I have no idea how Nathan got away with it. It feels criminal, and in the end it's just HBO winning again because this show was a ginormous hit.
Well, he gets final say. I mean, he's EP.
No, but that's the thing. How did they? That's kind of the
it's the
genius
deal.
of HBO.
It's the deal he signed with
and that's
them.
the thing that HBO is. That's why they get this, is because they give creators the freedom to just fully swing for the fences. But it worked. I'm so glad that this didn't end up somewhere where the vision had to become compromised and whatever else.
There's two things that I need to mention before we move on. Number one, Robin. He found himself upright after crashing his Scion TC at 100 miles per hour.
Yeah, it was 100 miles an hour. Every time I see an 88, I go 88.
Yeah. Absolute king, just a horrible person. Just
the worst human being. Nothing is going to be better than him arguing.
He stayed for like 4 hours and then he was like, I gotta go.
That's a classic type of like neo dumb guy. that exact guy. There are a million of him.
It's guys who are just like too online. But the funniest thing is him with his roommate, his roommate's like full Reddit brain of like, actually, I'm beyond religion. So it's like, well, both of you guys are annoying as hell. And he's like, I don't know if you read that. I think it was the Vice article that came out afterwards where he's just like, yeah, no, my roommate, he actually died shortly after filming. I think it's for the best, honestly, because he's not with God.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh, you suck, dude. Like
the shot of him hitting the bong and then cut to Nathan driving the car.
Yeah. Nathan's like, are you sure?
Yeah, I don't need a license plate.
That's the exact type of guy who hasn't not been high since like high school.
Yeah.
You know, so like everything that he says makes perfect sense to him.
And the other thing I wanted to shout out is the Fielder Method, which is episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite episode. The acting class. Only he could do this.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's insane. It's wildly advanced. It's also not. It's a good skewering of like acting method and acting class culture, but at the same time, it also is like a fairly interesting acting exercise. And like, I would feel like I was getting my money's worth if I were taking that class.
Sure,
because like it's all made up. Like acting method is a made up thing.
It's teaching you how to impersonate, which impersonation is like half of acting.
To that point, like. You know, we talked about this back in the day when Nathan For You was on, but it's like Nathan is playing a character. Like he's always playing a character, but this show makes you guess more than ever how blurry that line gets between him and the character. And at the very end, in the final episode, it really makes you just make your own conclusion as to what happens in that final scene when he shows his ass crack. It's like, is that him truly being himself for real? Or is that him just fucking with us and making us think that he's being...
See, that's he is still a magician at heart. Like, you know, that's his background, and I think that I sort of struggle with that a little bit. I feel like there's always going to be a little bit of a layer that he doesn't show us.
Yeah.
Which is hard to come to grips with in a show that's all about, you know,
manipulation.
And
instruction.
and also peeling back the layers of artifice behind TV.
I mean, he dresses up as the mom of this child actor.
Call me, I'm your dad.
Pretend daddy.
Shouts to the kid who's acting like the kid at the end, because that kid's really good.
Oh my God, the layers.
Dude, the like 16-year-old who's like jumping in like the little ones.
And then he's out there hitting the vape.
Yeah, he's like, I love you, daddy.
God, this show's so good, man. I'm gonna fire up the rehearsal whenever I get home tonight. I can't stop. It's so good. I love it.
Shout out to Nathan Fielder. The Rehearsal.
Our king. I can't believe
1.
that's coming back for another season.
Amazing.
And how do you do it?
Drew, this was your number 2. I'll touch on my number 1 real quick. We did a whole episode on this. It's Better Call Saul.
This could have, this probably should be my number 1 in any other year. It's possibly the best season yet of the show.
Shout out to Javi, who was on our episode. I salute you, Bob Odenkirk. Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould, everyone who worked on this show, the Queen, Ray Seahorn, everyone just absolute knocked it out of the park. 10 out of 10. I couldn't be happier. I went into this final season knowing it was going to be a banger, and every episode was a banger. And it took me on a ride full of twists and turns. Just delivered. No complaints, no notes. 10 out of 10. Incredible.
It's a 10 out of 10. It's perfect. I'm so glad that I don't know if we're going to do an episode on like our best first watches of the year this year, like we have in the last couple of years. But if we did, this would be up at the very top as far as I took the Better Call Saul dive this year. And is it better than Breaking Bad? I mean, worst case, it's like on the same tier as Breaking Bad, like at minimum, if it's not actually just a better, it's definitely a more consistent show than Breaking Bad episode to episode. And
to follow up one of the best shows ever and be like, yeah, we're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
We're gonna give you everything and more.
It's hard to say if it's better than Breaking Bad because it's like, well, this show doesn't exist without Breaking Bad. So like, how do you really kind of level the two? But I mean, either way, it's so good. Ray Seahorn, just absolute goddess. Fucking love her. Bob Odenkirk. I mean, you know, they did it. Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould just they fucking did it.
Number one.
Beautiful.
BCS.
Love it.
All right, let's close it out.
My number one theme song, not even theme song, opening sequence of the year.
I was gonna say a White Lotus theme is pretty fucking hard.
It is.
Oh my god, when they played it during the Globes as Jennifer Coolidge was accepting her award, I was like, yeah, I could rage out to this.
It's really impressive what they did with the season 2 theme song.
Yeah.
Anyway,
season 3, it's gonna get problematic.
Oh no!
It's gonna be like an anime opening.
Oh my god, that would rock.
Yeah, that tell me that wouldn't. That'd be so cool.
Severance, number one, Drew. I'm shocked, but not really, because this is.
We have kept talking about this more and more since it came out.
When it comes to like, you know, firing out of the chamber at full velocity, this is the show.
Exactly. It's my favorite season 1 in years. Like, I think it does everything that you should do. I don't know if it's going to be able to keep this up. I suspect it won't.
We shall see.
There's a ton of plot left to be explored, obviously, with the show, like especially where it leaves us on like an unbelievable cliffhanger at the end of season 1. But we're not self-contained anymore at the end of season 1. Like we are exploring the world, and that's always dicey. You never know; it could be great. Season 1 is, oh my god, it's impeccable. Like the look, the direction, the pace. It has a really good mesh of actors in it. Like just getting along in that office. It has a good collection of people you know and people you don't know. People that are going to be famous. What's the guy's name who plays he you know,
Milchick?
Yeah.
The supervisor?
Trammell Tillman.
Yeah. One of the performances of the year for me. And then you have people like Christopher Walken just like pop in for a few eps.
Mm-hmm. John Turturro.
Yeah, I mean Turturro he becomes, I don't know, maybe like the 4th lead of the show.
It's so the vibe is out of control.
Yeah, I mean it's all in writing and direction style more than anything. The direction is nuts. Like Stiller is a craftsperson.
Yeah.
He's wildly meticulous, like behind the scenes. Everyone has said who's worked with him as a director. And
Oifi McCarty.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Skinty Fia.
It all pays off. And it's all based on the bones of just an incredible pilot script that, like I said, the journey of it is truly was.
Yeah, Dan Erickson, he's talked a lot about how he worked at like some kind of office environment, and he just was always thinking about like if he got to write a show, what it would be about. And
this is like the best case scenario for like college guy writes a script about something, and
but it's not just that. Like he worked on it for many years and refined it. It's not like this was draft one.
Yeah.
And apparently Ben Stiller had a lot of input.
Oh, yeah.
In what it eventually ended up becoming.
Well, I mean, Ben Stiller, Gen X icon, obviously going to be enthralled by the idea of what if Office is bad? That blew their mind. When Fight Club dropped back then, Gen Xers were like, "What?
We don't have to do
that." It rises so far beyond that, though. It creates it's like this retrofuturism, you would almost call it, where the 80s and 2030s are alive at once. Anytime we explore a new angle of The Office, I'm so into it. You know, anytime we learn more lore about the
goats.
Yeah, about Lumen and the Egans and all of that. Mega into it. Like the way it plays as like religious allegory, the way it plays as governmental allegory. It all is, I don't know, it all is taking such a big swing that for it to work is a miracle.
Did you ever watch Lost?
Not sequentially.
This show reminds me a lot of Lost, and I'm a little worried about that comparison. Because I mean, I love Lost. Like Lost is like absolutely seminal for my love of television.
But are you thinking like, do they know where it's going?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, Lindelof is like my guy, but dude, like he didn't have full control over that show at a certain point. He was being pressured by ABC to kind of keep the wheel spinning. I'm not saying that's what's happening with this show, but what ended up happening with Lost is it introduced a lot of mysteries that were never fully explored to a satisfying extent. And, you know, I'm not saying that like a show has to tie up every loose ends to be a satisfying story, but the amount of things that this first season introduces that makes you feel like, oh my God, what a world that we could explore. It makes me a little bit worried of like, are they going to explore it? Am I going to feel like it's potential that's never capitalized on? It worries me a little bit.
I mean, I think for that reason, this is not fair to Severance. And I think that the reason why I have it at 7, which I still love this show, I love this season of television, and not higher, is because of a couple different factors. One of them is that you mentioned Lost. I had a little bit just in kind of the aftermath of this show. I was like, God, I hope this isn't the next Westworld. I hope this isn't a show where it's just like, it's a really good potential one season, and then they just completely let it get out of their hands and take on a life of its own, season 2, 3, 4. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's definitely not going to happen because
Ben Stiller's a much more steadier hand than the conglomerate.
Jonah Nolan,
Nolan
and Lisa Joy.
Yeah.
The thing with Westworld is, as good as that first season was, it was piling on way too much. Like imagine if this first season of Severance was cutting between two completely different timelines that had nothing to do with each other.
Exactly.
And then at the end, it was like, actually, that guy was Adam Scott all along.
Yeah.
It's also answering a lot of questions. Like
it is. Yeah, it's not full.
Well,
leaving everything out there.
The things that it's not answering are actually not that important. It's answering the important ones.
It's answering the big theoretical questions. What is left to be discovered is a lot of specifics, A, and B, plot. Like while a lot of like the fundamental questions about the nature of this technology have been answered, like what happens in the finale means that things have to happen now. Like big things have
Yeah.
to start happening every single episode.
Oh.
That's another thing. We can't. It's going to be hard for them to take their foot off the gas moving forward.
I think there's going to be a reset.
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm sure they will, because you cannot go breakneck speed.
It won't last. There's going to be an urgency to it.
But I think
there's going to be a ticking clock.
There's a ticking clock, but also like I think that there has to be some kind of the thing is, so the season finale of Severance, I think, is like up there for just the best episodes of television this year. As far as just a perfect piece, perfect, like,
and the pilot too,
45 minutes of television. This is my favorite type of sci-fi. This is the kind of the
grounded,
the Jonathan Glazer under the skin, where it's sci-fi, but it's so minimalist and it's after Yang. It's more about production design and mood than it is explaining anything about like the technology. The worst case scenario for Severance moving forward is that we start to like learn the minutia of like what they're doing with the coding. That's like the worst. I don't care. Don't go Star Wars prequel on me. I don't care about what's happening with all this stuff. That is the least interesting stuff to all of this. I think that what Ben Stiller and everybody,
Dan Erickson,
I was trying to look up who the other guys are. Andrew Colville is another guy who like writes a few episodes. Chris Black, like what that whole team is doing, like the way that they are presenting this world is the most interesting part to me. The world is what works. I think that where season 2 has a place to improve is in the characters, because I think that that is one spot, at least for me, that I think is, I don't want to say lacking, but has places to grow. Is that I want to learn more about Mark's character.
By nature, it is nebulous by nature, because that's like the premise of the story.
But I think that that's where I'm talking about there being a reset, is I think that we can kind of keep this world, but we can add a little bit more emotionality to all of this.
Well, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that, like, you know, the people that you know at work, you don't really know them. Like, you don't really get to know them. You know a version of them. And that's like the feeling that you get from these characters. Like, you don't really know them. And then you get this little tiny peek at who they are, and then you want to find out more. And they, you know, that's a tease for what's next. But it's like, obviously, like, it sucks that the characters aren't as fully developed as we want, but it's by design, because it's the innies.
And that's also what season 2 is going to have to be about, is about each of these characters reconciling both of these personalities that they have. I mean, the biggest discrepancy is in Helly, obviously. We learned something about Helly in the finale that is going to take a lot of unpacking.
Yeah.
And it's going to be what, more than anything, what drives the plot of the whole show moving forward. And I'm excited for that, because also I think Britt Lower is a great actress. And I'm excited to see where she goes. Adam Scott is also just a mega, it's a disservice to call him serviceable, but it's in the most complimentary way. Like, he does exactly what you need for your like, again, not in a mean way, but like your boilerplate, like the person you need to follow.
Yeah.
You need someone to hold
your playable character.
Yeah, you're big boy to the rest of the show's Andre.
It's well, no, but I think that
you're Paul to the rest of the show's John.
Get the fuck out of here.
That's dismissing Paul, okay? You gotta
it's
put
not.
some
That's what I'm
respect on
saying.
Paul's
No,
name.
it's not.
I think that I get what you're saying, and that I think that this is another, like, it's a level up performance that I love Adam Scott. I've been loved Adam Scott. You talking you two to me.
Are you regarding REM regarding me?
It's are you talking REM to RE me? I love Adam Scott. Adam Scott's like one of my guys. This is a level up performance for him. I did not know that he had these kind of dramatic chops in him.
He rocks.
And his line delivery on the final line of the season had me like, it gave me fucking chills all over.
I'm definitely going to rewatch this whole season before season 2 drops, which should be soon. They are shooting it. It's in production.
Holds up upon rewatch. The show
Oh, you
does.
did rewatch. Ooh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
And it got better. It rose on my list because of rewatch, to be honest.
Oh my God. Nice.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
because it doesn't feel like I rewatched Westworld season 1 not long after watching it, and it felt more hollow. Because you could see the violent ends to those violent delights.
Well, you lucked out because now you can't watch it. It is not available to anyone.
It never existed.
Yeah, well, yeah. Did it ever really exist?
Shout out to Patty Arquette. Got to shout her out.
Chaos mode, like acting wise, she's doing like 10 different things. Go for it.
Love to see it.
Go for it, sis.
Well, that's our list. That's our favorite, best, top TV shows of 2022. We did it. We are in the halfway point of Listomania. Almost there, boys. Almost there. Thank you all for listening. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Actually, should we do some rapid fire honorable mentions before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess
my number 11 was Winning Time. That was like the one I wanted to keep in there.
Man,
that I had to cut out.
That's one of my biggest things.
I really want you guys to watch that show. I couldn't find a spot for it.
That's one of my biggest regrets, my biggest blind spot regrets, that I need to watch that show. I know that I'm gonna love it. I fucking love basketball, love 80s basketball stuff.
For All Mankind season 3, they went to Mars. They did it.
Cool.
Great time.
Happy
Loved
for
it.
you.
House of the Dragon. We did a pod with Brett. Shout out. What We Do in the Shadows continues to be just A+ television.
Can I be honest? I had House of the Dragon in my top 10, and I was like, wait, I didn't like the first third of that season.
Sure.
Therefore, it doesn't belong in my top. I had to boot it kind of last minute because I was just like, I think the highs of House of the Dragon are incredible, but it's got some low. It's a very much a filler setup for the future of that show.
Abbott Elementary continues to fly the sitcom flag.
Super solid show.
Going hard, just doing its thing. Our Flag Means Death on HBO Max. It's pirates. It's a Taika Waititi, who in a post Love and Thunder world you may not want to see on your television, but he does a good job. And it's gay pirates. They love each other. Hacks, we talked about. That should have been on your list.
I didn't see season 2. We talked about season 1.
Oh, okay.
Long ago.
Great season 2, continuing the trend. And Euphoria, incredible filmmaking.
I need to watch Euphoria, yeah.
Not so great writing, but on a filmmaking level, really loved it. Any honorable mentions?
Stranger Things is pretty good.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it.
My still to watch is rough. Industry is like near the top there.
Have you seen?
Are you an
1?
Industry guy?
I enjoy it. I mean, it's not one of my things. It's in my.
Are you a Slow Horses kind of guy?
It's in the next tier down of everything I just mentioned. My parents like that show.
You're Sheridan head.
Are you gonna get into Copenhagen Cowboy?
Hell no.
Are you a Tulsa King?
No. I wish. I'm a Tulsa
King. You gonna
watch
Outer Lands?
I really like Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix. That's the Guillermo show. Also, guys, Minx is a show on HBO that got Zaslav cut, but just saw the news today, got picked up by Stars. So I really recommend it.
You're gonna renew your Star subscription in order to watch that?
It's with Jake Johnson of New Girl fame.
Cool.
I don't know if you guys have heard the premise. It's like what if there was a ladies porn mag in the 70s? And it's cool. It's not dramatic. It's fun. It's nice. It's snappy, quick pace, funny. Also, I mentioned this before. Players on Paramount Plus from the guys that made American Vandal.
Nice.
About League of Legends.
Yeah.
Competitors.
I need to watch that. Yeah.
Really good show. Everything else is all slop. All of this is slop. Russian Doll had a second season that was pretty good. Bust Down. That should have been on your list. Bust Down on Peacock.
You're right. Rest in peace.
Just give us 2 seconds and we'll put it at your number 10.
Really funny show.
Canceled and yeah, rest in peace, Jack Knight.
Better or worse than The Mole?
I did not say that The Mole was on my list. You did. I have a top 7 list.
Okay.
You don't know what's under that. Okay.
And it's not Bust Down.
It could be. Could not be. Could be The Mole.
Marvelous
The Mole sucks.
Some unhonorable mentions. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel had a new season that was just not good. Just heavily crippled by the pandemic. Bake Off was like not that great this year. Some standout highlights, but nothing to show for. And Search Party ended, and it was okay. I liked it, but it was,
Any good CISO like reruns that you want to give a shout out to, or
I wish CISO still existed.
Man, R.I.P. CISO.
Did you ever finish Rings of Power?
No, I need to finish Rings of Power.
I started it.
What's your take on Realms?
Whoa. You're giving us this in hour 3 of the podcast.
Went to a different realm.
You started the Rings of Power.
Oh my God, Drew! Can you give us 4,000 words on Rings of Power?
Galadriel.
I misspoke. I was in the room when it was
where it happened.
Right.
When it came on.
It happened. Rings of Power happened to you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I really couldn't have been more unaffected. It did not affect me positively or negatively. It was so not.
What if I told you that they're trying to break free of Peter Jackson's masterpiece in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Yeah.
They're trying to break free of what might be the best trilogy ever made.
It was
best fantasy trilogy.
It was some of the most flatly delivered medieval dialogue I have ever heard in my life. It was the most.
I've heard that there's highs and lows.
Zero affect in the acting, and they're delivering very exposition heavy, old school lange. You gotta fix one of the things there. Update the language or make better.
Well, there are dwarves. And the dwarves don't do that. They are actually
they're like
have
epic
life.
mode.
They're speaking like Irish, basically.
Yeah.
There's like,
the heart of our land.
Yeah, they're Gimli mode.
They're speaking banshees of Inisherin.
Not to be racist.
I think that there's one thing between Rings of Power and House of the Dragon. I was like, God damn, was Game of Thrones good?
Yeah.
The whole time I was watching both those shows, I was like, I think we underrated
Hunter's,
how good Game of Thrones was at just like making like high fantasy just like deeply watchable and fun and entertaining.
You're Leo at the end of Don't Look Up. We really did have everything.
We had everything. And then Benioff and Vice.
Last thing I'll mention, Sandman on Netflix. Just I'm contractually obligated by the Sandman crowd to bring it up.
I thought that there was an outside chance that was going to make your list, and we're going to have to be here and be like, okay,
you're such a plant.
Happy for
this
you.
is all big Sarandos.
Cool.
It was good.
There was a new season of The Floor is Lava this year.
Okay.
A new season. Actually, there was 3 new seasons of Nailed It. I think I watched all of them. I could let you borrow them for your list, or if you want them.
Okay.
We got to wrap it up. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with the best movies of 2022. In the meantime, you can stay tuned by visiting webottomic.net for all the latest updates and become a donor at anchor.fm/webottomic. Thank you, all you beautiful donors, for making the show possible. And join the Discord if you haven't already. Breathe some life into it, because I don't have the time to do so.
Here's the question. I'm thinking of this in terms of Survivor. If we get a big enough block to just move there and not talk in the group chat anymore on Facebook, what do you think the odds are that it happens?
Well, the thing is there are people in the Discord. There's just no activity on it.
Well, the problem is with moving is that I just have so many different group chats that are based on Messenger, and I need them all to move to Discord simultaneously, because
shut it all down.
I'm not shuffling between multiple apps. I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Well, here's the key. There is a movie coming out called Plane. So if we just
It's
do a
coming
plane
this weekend.
if we
as
do a
we're filming.
plane channel, that's gonna everyone will flock
if
to
we-
the plane
Well,
channel.
Where's the Megan channel? I do want to know where the Megan channel is.
It's not.
The crowd, the audiences, the masses have been clamoring for our Megan pod. What do we think about a real girl playing a not real girl?
Oh, is she real?
It's an
How do they do it?
anti-Pinocchio situation.
Is she a doll? Is she CGI? How do they
It's a
make it
real
work?
girl playing a doll.
Wow,
Yeah,
incredible.
magic of filmmaking.
All right, thanks for listening. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.